This is Mao Zedong, founder of the People's Republic of China and the absolute leader of the country's Communist Party for much of the 20th century. A man who gained total control of China in 1949 following a brutal civil war. A man who ruled with an iron fist, catapulting China into the modern world at the expense of millions of lives. A man who did not believe in bathing or brushing his teeth, famously asking his concerned physician a perplexing question: does a tiger brush his teeth? An ardent communist who ironically is responsible for the best-selling non-religious book of all time, his famous Little Red Book. Mao's story and legacy is as complex as it is brutal, from the long march to his meeting with President Richard Nixon. But today we'll take a look back at one of the stranger episodes in Mao's career, his war on China's sparrows. In 1958, Chairman Mao Zedong introduced his Great Leap Forward program, stating that it is possible to accomplish any task whatsoever. One of those tasks? The systematic elimination of the Chinese sparrow population. This wild plan proved not only to be disastrous for the birds, but for the Chinese people as well. Mao's Great Leap Forward program divided the country into organized communes, with the goal of matching the agricultural and industrial output of the Western capitalist countries. As part of the program, Mao determined that there were 4 so-called pests: mosquitoes, rats, flies, and of course, sparrows. And they all had to be eliminated. The first 3 were known to carry diseases. Makes sense, want to get rid of those guys for sure. But the sparrows, on the other hand, were singled out simply because Mao, who certainly wasn't an ornithology expert, believed that the birds ate too much grain, thus depriving his workers of food. A very bold claim coming from a man whose programs would lead to the deaths of tens of millions of his own people due to starvation and famine. At first, Mao's 4 pest program seemed to work wonders. Agricultural and industrial output soared, and Ring Deng Sheng Tan, meaning man must conquer nature, became the rallying cry for the campaign, utilizing China's massive supply of manpower to subdue nature for the believed benefit of the country and its people, as citizens cooperated together to rid China of the pest. Citizens wrote songs, created banners, and enthusiastically shot, netted, and poisoned as many sparrows as they could find. Many villages even took to the fields en masse, banging together pots and pans, causing the birds to endlessly fly around, to such an extreme point that they inevitably died from exhaustion. This new ideology was quite the departure from the traditional Chinese idea of a harmonious balance between man and nature. By 1959, the second year of the Great Leap Forward, let's just say things weren't going swimmingly, as Chinese factories were producing substandard equipment and farms were seeing progressively lower and lower yields to rush the unrealistic quotas set by the communist government. However, the directive to kill off the nation's pests and sparrows was a smashing success. Mao had mobilized the entire Chinese population above the age of 5 to complete this effort, and they were doing a damn good job at it. Propaganda, largely targeted at children, fueled the nation's bloodlust for the birds. Posters in cities and schools encouraged this avian massacre, with slogans like "Eradicate pest and disease and build happiness for 10,000 generations." Children in school would be led outside by their teachers to take part in the massacre. A first-hand account from a former Sichuan schoolchild at the time of the campaign recounted, "It was fun to wipe out the 4 pests. The whole school went out to kill the sparrows. We made ladders to knock down their desks and beat gongs in the evening when they were coming home to roost." Not your typical school day activity, but it sounds more exciting than sitting through algebra class. In another insane instance, on December 13th, 1958, the people of Shanghai took to the streets and the fields with primitive weapons, and in a single day annihilated around 200,000 sparrows. A 16-year-old boy named Yang Shi-moon was a particularly efficient sparrow slayer, and was later considered a national hero for personally dispatching 20,000 sparrows, by identifying their nests during the day and then reportedly strangling them at night with his bare hands. Now that's one hell of a high school achievement, but somebody probably should have checked in on him. The Chinese government even further encouraged the onslaught by awarding money and grants to schools, work groups, and government agencies who had the highest kill counts. However, with all the killing going on, not everyone was so gung-ho on the termination of the sparrow population, as members of the Academy of Sciences brought an unwelcome finding to Mao's attention. It was discovered that the digestive system of dissected sparrows contained 3/4 of harmful insects and only 1/4 of human food. Ironically meaning that in reality, the sparrows being killed off were perhaps the most effective weapon against many of the true pests plaguing China's fields. Armed with this knowledge and growing evidence that the Great Leap Forward was a failure, Mao is reported to have said, "Sun Lu, or forget it, and bedbugs replaced sparrows on the list of the 4 pests. But not before an estimated 1 billion sparrows met their untimely demise. In the end, the decimation of the birds led to an overall ecological imbalance due to the increase of the locust population, which in turn led to widespread destruction of crops, particularly grains, which in a cruel twist of fate contributed to a famine that killed as many as 30 million people. On the other hand, there are those who argue that the extermination of the other 3 pests, rats, mosquitoes, flies, and of course bedbugs later on, may have contributed to the overall improvement of health statistics within China's cities during this era. But there's no doubt that even if that's the case, it most certainly came at a grievous cost. Mao Zedong would remain in power until his death due to ill health in 1976. Probably should have brushed your teeth more, big dog. Mao's policies were responsible for a vast number of deaths, with estimates ranging from 40 to 80 million victims due to starvation, persecution, prison labor, and mass executions, and his government has been described as totalitarian. Despite his bloody legacy, Mao remains one of the most influential and controversial figures of the 20th century. Today, he is seen by many as a dictator responsible for countless deaths, but also as a man who transformed China into a world power. Mao's cult of personality lives on today as his famous family retreat, located on the picturesque bank of the East Lake of Wuchang, is a popular tourist destination. Every year, thousands of Chinese tourists flock to marvel at his grand estate, massive indoor swimming pool, and stroll through the beautiful gardens and groves, filled with trees humming with the sounds of songbirds, including, you guessed it, sparrows. And that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching, and comment below with a pest or animal that you wouldn't be too heartbroken if they just happen to get eliminated. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and have a great day.